with a win against Friedel, and then it will be all to play for in the playoffs tomorrow because of this three-way tie. Now, on the ladies' side, it's very clear. Irina Krush playing against Victoria Ni. She's got 6 points against a tailender. She wants to win her game, no question about it. She has all to play for. And in the other matchup, you have Anna Zatonski, who's playing against Katerina Nemkova, who's acquitting herself quite well in these championships. She's going to be a hard player to beat in this round. And of course, these two players want to win. If either one of them wins, immediately they are the champion of the country. No question about it. Irina having won 5, Zatonski having won 4. They want to add this new championship to their resume. But there are many scenarios there as well. Because if Irina or Zatonski don't win their games and Abrahamian wins hers, if they draw both their games, Abrahamian with a win will put them in a three-way tie for first, again with a messy playoffs going into the final day, the playoff day. And yet another scenario, we admit, much less likely, if Krush and Zatonski were to lose their games, well, shocker of shockers, the long shot Abrahamian would win the championships. So all to play for today. These players are going to be going all out. It's a must-win day at the U.S. Chess Championships. Back to you guys.
We couldn't have scripted any better.
Well, what do you think is going to happen, Yasser? What's your prediction for today's action in the U.S. Championship?
I'm thinking that VAR is going to make a draw with the black pieces. I think that if Kamsky does not join them with a victory, I'm taking VAR in the playoff. If Kamsky does win and there's a three-way playoff, I'm going to go with Gada, the defending champion.
Absolutely. You got to take God in the rapid chess. That's why I think both of these players, Lenderman and Akobian, are incentivized not to take a draw.
Exactly, and play all out for the win.
Then they can avoid Gada. But sometimes chess just ends in a draw, as much as Maurice doesn't like it.
Right.
Maurice, what do you think is going to happen?
Personally, I'm going to go all out on a limb. I'm not going to hedge my bets the way Yasser just did. I'm going all out and saying Lenderman's going to win. I think that the way he's been playing in the tournament, he's been playing fresh chess. He showed that he could bounce back after a disastrous loss. Akobian looked shaky to me after having won 4 games in a row, seemingly super solid. He lost a very bad game. Then he drew a game that he really should have been pressing even more against Kamsky. So I like VAR's chances, but I think that it's going to go to Lenderman. I don't think we're going to see Kamsky be a factor in this one. That's my bet.
All right, I'm going to say GM Varuzhin Akobian. Lenderman's going to try really hard to win because he doesn't want to get in the playoff, and he's going to overpress, and Varuzhin's going to snatch the win and the championship title.
Defense wins. Now, for the women, I do expect a playoff. I think that it's just that type of a tournament, that type of an atmosphere. I'm expecting 2 decisive games. I do see Irina as beating Victoria in their match, and I do see Anna overcoming a stubborn, well-prepared Katya Nemkova in her match. And I'm thinking the women are going to have a playoff tomorrow, and I'm going to choose Irina in a squeaker, a real squeaker.
Interesting. I think it's about 50-50 in the women's championship because even though obviously both of them are pared down, you know, you have to, it's both games have to win,
Absolutely.
Right? So, you know, sometimes just a player,
the odds aren't that
too many
great.
pieces are traded and you can't figure out a way to win.
Right.
So I think one of the players might draw, and it's close to 50-50 that we might just see a clear champion today. What do you think about that, Maurice?
I must admit this one's harder to guess. Much more like you want to hedge your bets on this one. However, if I had to say it, I would go with Irina Krush. The game she beat Anna when she had to win, when the chips were down, she had to make the victory. That's the sign of a champion. She was shaky throughout, but in their head-to-head matchup, she shows she has what it takes to be the champion. She's also the only grandmaster in the field, and she's paired pretty way down against Victoria Ni. Ni coming off her first win, good win on her part, but I think that the way Irina has won 5 of these championships and winning just that one edge she had against Anna, beating her in their head-to-head matchup, I've got to feel like she has all the confidence in the world going into this round. But it's even if they had a playoffs, as a matter of fact, I think even if they went both of them won and had the playoffs that we expect, I think she's got that intestinal fortitude right now that says, I want to keep my championship.
Right. Well, we've got a lot of great comments coming in from our hashtag US Chess Champs. Chris Bird, international arbiter, said, all the marbles, draw allows Kamsky to catch up with a win. And he also thinks that there's going to be a playoff in the women's. Meanwhile, Daniel Wrench from chess.com says, it's not even funny how excited I am for the Lenderman-Akobian battle. Seems like we got a lot of stars watching us today. Malcolm Payne, organizer of the London Chess Class, also, he's tuning in. And we've got Natalia Poganina, one of the most popular chess players on social media.
Right.
Yeah, fantastic that she's chiming in. You know, also, somebody who's asking a bunch of questions to Gary Kasparov. Sorry, but we don't have Gary every day.
Right.
Wish we did.
That would be nice.
But yeah, you can actually find that interview. That'll be up on the YouTube channel at the St. Louis Chess Club. So look for that. And there's also lots of other great videos on the St. Louis Chess Club, as well as lectures from one of our competitors here, Varuzhin Akobian, and recaps by Maurice Ashley. So a lot for you to dig in there.
Absolutely.
And of course, lectures by you and I as
well.
well.
Sure.
So if you're not tired of Yasser's beautiful positional descriptions, you can get a heck of a lot more on the YouTube channel. Now, speaking of positional chess,
right,
and Yasser's type of chess, Lenderman played a move that you love, 1c4.
Yes, indeed. He started with the English opening, Alex Lenderman white, Varuzhin Akobian black, c4. Very often a opening move that transposes to queen pawn openings, e7, e6, g3, d5, bishop g2. And I'm a little bit surprised that VAR is having a big think here. This couldn't have been that unexpected, so part of his preparation for sure. Three primary moves here for black. The first and most important, I think, is d5 takes c4. The reason is after queen a4 check, knight d7, queen takes c4, c5. You don't get the usual Catalan type of situations with the pawn on d4. I think that this is the simplest and most efficient way for black to equalize. The second is, pardon me. The second most common move would be, for example, knight f6, knight f3, bishop e7, d4, and then we're right into the main line Catalans. And the third option for VAR, and a very ambitious option I might add, is he could play d5, d4 in this position, trying to grab the center now that white is playing on the flanks.
But haven't you kind of like lost the tempo?
Yes, you have, in a sense. You've already committed your pawn to e6, but that's not the big factor. What you're really trying to do is disrupt white's normal flow of development by just having this pawn on d4. So, for example, knight f3, knight f6, castles, c5. You can get into a little bit of what is, in fact, a kind of a Benoni position with a pawn on e6 instead of on e5. White's fine, but it doesn't mean that white has a big advantage or something, just because he's a tempo up in a Benoni.
Right, because the Benoni is just a pretty good opening for white usually, and this
Yes.
is reverse.
Right.
So even down a tempo, it's decent. That happens in some defenses that turn into attacks, doesn't it?
Right.
Or rather, attacks that turn into defenses.
Exactly.
And we've got Maurice for his thoughts on this game as well.
Indeed, Jen, if we could just take a look at the players, already you see some interesting things that we could discover. First of all, if you look at Varuzhin, he's already looking at the clock. He's been glancing at the clock quite a bit, nervously shaking there, as you can tell. I think he's just a little bit nervous right now and needs to calm down. I mean, he's only on move 2. Not only that, he's already 10 minutes behind. 2 moves have been played by him, and he's already acting like there's an issue here. I think he was really surprised by this opening choice, and he's wondering how he can avoid things or what he needs to go into. Probably his preparation has just gone out the window. Lenderman, on the other hand, he seems focused right now. He's wearing his red shirt. Reminds me of Tiger Woods wearing his red shirt on a championship day. So already it seems as though there's some body language issues going on early in the game, some nervousness. Really strange that after 2 moves, Varuzhin has used 10 minutes and counting on the clock.
It is extraordinary. I don't understand that myself. VAR, great professional, consummate professional. He's been faced in these situations for the better part of 2 decades. He knows what's going on. Why on earth is he taking so long on his third move? That might bite him, wasting clock time so early.
And I might add, Yaz, when I spoke to VAR in one of our interviews, he said that he had been this close before. In 2003 is the last time he was this close. He was all of 19 years old. He was playing against Alexander Shabalov in the 2003 championships in Seattle. He lost that game. He has not been this close again. So he's feeling like 11 years later, maybe it's my time, but hopefully the pressure doesn't get to him. On the other side is Lenderman. He's thinking, I got 20 more shots at these. I got everything to play for, freewheeling, loose. So let's hope that VAR doesn't stay tight in this contest and gives a great game.
Absolutely. And another key game in the championships that I'm keeping a watchful eye on is Kamsky. His usual slow play against Josh Friedel. As we know, Kamsky has only one result that could help him retain his title, and that is he's got to win. He likes the London system.
And he's got to win and hope that the other game is a draw.
Exactly.
The Veruzhnakovian game between Lenderman is a draw.
D4, his usual stuff, knight f3, e6, bishop f4. This has really been Gada's pet system throughout his career, and he's played it a number of times in these U.S. championships. He's eschewing the really mainline variations of, say, a Nimzo Indian Queen's Gambit decline Queen's Indian, and instead he just posts up his bishop on the f4 square, on the b8 h2 diagonal, and basically says, you know, I'm just developing my pieces. I'm not trying to blow you off the board anytime early, but I just like to have a little bit of a positional edge if I can get it. Thank you. c5, e3 takes. This captures on d4. It really defines the position, and it doesn't give black a great deal of flexibility in my view. I like maintaining that tension when I'm black. Anyway, that was Josh's choice, and I'm sure he came into this game very well prepared, as he could have expected this. b7, b6, as we see this bishop on c8, hindered by these pawns on d7 and e6. It's trying to find a better diagonal on the a8, h1 long diagonal. So normal, everything's fine. The normal move for Gada would be a move like bishop d3, bishop b7, castles, bishop e7, knight b d2, d7, d6, castles, rook e1, pardon me, castles. These positions, Gada is probably one of the most experienced grandmasters in the world on the white side. He likes them very much. I don't personally find them that appealing. I have played this line in my career, of course, but I usually do it when I'm trying to avoid my opponent's Grunfeld or King's Indian defense type of play. So this game, still very early. Gada's happy, I suppose, although I think the position's balanced.
One other good news for Gada, we have received confirmation from the arbiters here at the St. Louis Chess Club that if he wins and the Okobian-Lenderman game is a draw, he's going to have the best tie breaks in that three-way playoff.
Got it.
And therefore...
And that's nice,
that's
because
huge.
That means he's seated in the final. He doesn't have to play.
Exactly.
He just has to wait for his challenger, essentially.
Exactly. And he's the best rapid player. So, frankly, I think that means that Okobian and Lenderman really should try to settle it over the board, because I just think Gada is going to be a massive favorite in that tie break. Not only is he going to get to rest while they have to battle it out, he's also the best rapid player of the three of them. So he's going to have a well over 50% chance of winning that playoff.
Exactly.
So a draw here could really just spell the end of their championship dreams and, make it, of course they're going to try.
Of course,
but
of course.
Gada, no question, heavy, heavy favorite.
In case of a three-way playoff. It's a long way to go from here. Yes. I think he's going to have a very hard time winning against Friedel. Josh has played a really excellent tournament, and Gada has not been in the best of shape, especially his previous the penultimate round against Akobian with black, when I thought he really had to do something, he ended up playing a system, frankly, that just fizzled. Maurice, your thoughts?
Well, let's add also, guys, that if these two players draw at the top, that is between Akobian and Lenderman, automatically they have to play each other again tomorrow in the playoffs. Now, one side might say, well, I'm a better 25-minute player, better rapid player than the other, but you run the risk of introducing Kamsky into that equation as well. So even if you don't introduce Kamsky in, you still have to play this guy again after you just battled him today. So I don't think in any way, shape, or form either side wants a draw. I think you're going to find that Akobian, even though he has black, he's not thinking at all about a draw. He wants to win it all today, and that way he does not have to deal with Lenderman again, or, a worst case, have to deal with them both. And with that stat that he'd have to play Lenderman first and then Kamsky, no way in the world he wants to go through that. So expect both sides to play 100 moves if they have to.
Yes, I totally agree. Unfortunately for them, sometimes chess is just a draw, but they're going to try their best to show that there are only two results possible in this position, but not the results that Yasser is usually talking about when he says that.
Right.
In this case, the two results are win or loss, right?
Right.
So let's see how they do it. I mean, honestly, starting the opening doesn't seem particularly double-edged yet, but it's not clear yet how the game is really going to develop. So why don't we move over to the Women's Championship, where we've got Victoria Ni and Irina Krush playing a battle which I think is very well suited to Irina Krush's situation in the tournament, which is she wants to win this game because it might be a must-win situation.
Right.
She's kind of going into the game. I know Irina is, she's very focused when she plays, so she's just not going to look at Anna's game at all.
Right.
Maybe in move 40 she'll look at it, but till then she's going to be in the zone. And that's because getting into the zone is very difficult, so it's not worth it. You just need to play good moves. It's not worth it to leave your zone and try to figure out what's going to happen in another game that you have zero control over.
Absolutely.
So this opening, I actually kind of, I mean, I like it kind of for both sides, but I think considering the tournament situation, it's going to be very double-edged. As you can see, her knight is posted up on d4. That's a really nice square for the knight. And later in the game, after she plays something like knight e7 and castles, she's going to start playing on the queen side with b5, b4, a5.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're going to see Ni castle kingside and try to play for f4 and f5. But it's pretty easy to overextend yourself with white in that way, especially playing such a strong player as black. So I really like Irina's chances in this game, not just because of her greater rating and title, but I think she got the type of opening that she wants to get.
Okay, I'll take the flip side of that one, and I'll say that Victoria has outprepared Irina Krush, and let's see what it is. It's a closed Sicilian.
Right.
You love the Sicilian, so I know you're partial to Irina's opening choice. Knight c3. This was a favorite of Vasily Smyslov's. The idea is that white doesn't play for the d4 open Sicilians that are the most common, but instead slow plays the position with the pawn on e4. Irina played e7, e6. I think that this is the best move against the closed Sicilian. g2, g3, knight c6. I don't think that this is actually the best move. I think the best equalizing move is what Boris Spassky played against Bobby Fischer in their 1992 return match. d5, takes, bishop g2, d5. Bobby Fischer, white, played this, but won. But Boris Spassky had a good opening and was drawing that game until a late move.
You're saying Bobby was black?
Bobby was white.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Bobby was white. So, knight c3, knight c6,
because of
g3.
course Bobby is usually championing the open Sicilian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, g7, g6, d3, bishop g7, bishop e3.
Isn't it awesome that we're on first name basis with Bobby and Gary? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now d7, d6. All of these opening moves are well known. And what the heck is queen d8,
that
d7?
does look kind of weird, doesn't it? I guess
that is bizarre.
She's thinking maybe that she wants to keep her bishop on c8, because if bishop d7, maybe the diagonal gets cranked open. Like there's some tactics sometimes. But there's just some tactics on the knight, like if she plays rook b8 and b5, sometimes there's a well-timed e5, that type of tactic.
Right.
You know, and then even after knight takes e5, sometimes there's f4. So I suppose that's what she's thinking, guarding the knight on c6 and kind of bolstering the diagonal so that she can play b5.
Whatever her thought process is, this is a bad move. After putting her queen in front of her bishop, she's rather committed herself to playing b7, b6, and fianchettoing her bishop over here. That means that black isn't going to get her traditional favorable expansions on the queen side. Instead of playing for b7, b5, as you mentioned, Jen, I see b7, b6, but queen d7 just simply looks like a poor move.
And I should point out that I believe you were right about the preparation thing, because Irina has used a decent amount of time. I mean, it's not like insane like Jacobian,
yeah.
But she has used 15 minutes for her first 9 moves, or like 17 minutes, I guess, with the increment.
Right.
My math is really
Whereas
bad, sorry.
Victoria's just snapped out of her moves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So she's used about 20 minutes, actually.
Okay.
And Victoria's 20 minutes and 9 moves might not seem like a lot, but it also indicates that you weren't prepared for the line, because why would you spend 20 minutes if you knew what moves you were going to make?
Precisely.
Except
so.
We did talk about Ivanov yesterday, how he liked to think on move 1.
Right.
But what's better, 1c4 or 1e4?
Okay.
Maybe the U.S. Championship is the right time to figure it out.
Right. So knight g1, e2. By the way, with the very sly idea of playing d3, d4, where you're kind of saying to black, maybe you're not nicely set up for an open Sicilian with your queen on d7.
When your opponent tries to play a closed Sicilian, and then all of a sudden, like, you've made some weaknesses and they just change it into an open Sicilian.
With d4?
That is always a sign that things have gone very wrong. But of course, Irina prevented that by sticking her knight on d4, which is a really, really typical antidote against the closed Sicilian. Sticking that knight on d4 because you're not really afraid of doubling the d-pawns.
Absolutely. No, bishop takes d4, c takes d4 would leave black with the 2 bishops in a fine game.
Yeah, and pressure on the c-file, and actually a bad position for white. So I see what you're saying, Yasser, but I still think that even if you don't like her,
no,
this is the final position?
No. Let's keep going. So knight on e2 to c1. This may look like a strange maneuver to a person not experienced in the closed Sicilian. However, it's a very common one. This knight on d4 is an excellent animule, and we'll see how white intends to get rid of it. Animule. For example, if you play b7, b6, just a normal move, let's say, that Irina would like to make, either b6 or b5. White drops back with this knight, knight c3 to d1, and let's just play a few more moves. Bishop b7, c2, c3, and now the point of white's strategy becomes clear. She wants to chase the knight back from d4. The knight would retreat, and now white plays the move f2, f4. These knights are misplaced, but they very quickly go to e2 and f2, and this attacking formation, again, was one that was a real favorite of former world champion Vasily Smyslov, and he won many, many games on the white side. It's not clear to me where black's counterplay is, and at the moment, I'm going to give Victoria the edge in the opening battle. Maurice, your thoughts?
Yes, I totally agree with you. I've been studying this position as well. When I saw that move, queen d7, I obviously was a bit concerned by the move, but I understand the reasoning behind it. I was at least trying to understand the reasoning behind it. It was a way of not committing this knight so that any ideas of this bishop coming here would not come into play, but also preparing the move. Yes, there I disagree with you. She was in fact preparing to play b5 because she knew that this move was coming. There's really no better move for white other than losing a tempo with a move like h3 that you don't know you need. And this move is absolutely predictable. We know this is a standard plan against this line. And now the queen is well placed. She can play for b5 and put her bishop on b7. But this maneuver, I have to tell you, I am impressed by. When this landed, I knew this must have surprised Irina. You saw her take some time because of that plan of knight d1, as you mentioned, with c3 coming. And it looks like it has indeed happened in the game. The move knight to e7 and now knight back has indeed occurred. So here, I think queen d7 was a subtlety on the part of Irina. I don't think she was surprised by the closed Sicilian. She's seen them many times in her life. That is, the opening itself. She may have been surprised by Victoria Ni's choice in this moment, but I don't think the opening itself was something that shocked her. I think queen d7 was probably something she knew about, had prepared, keeping her knight back on g8 as a nuance in the position. But this move, knight to c1, I think did surprise her. And now knight to d1, I think she hasn't seen this idea before, and her knight's about to be ejected from d4. This could be an issue because the close Sicilian is one of those slow build-ups that once the punch lands, you're dead. It's just, you're dead. And if you don't have counterplay well prepared, then you're in real trouble. So already, I think the opening battle goes to knee so far in this game.
All right.
Definitely the opening, but I don't know. I still got to think that Irina Krush got a good chance, especially when you saw Nee getting so many good positions in this tournament. But her conversion skills
has been terrible.
I mean, her preparation and her opening play, I think, like, with a boost of confidence, she might be in the running for the women's championship one day.
With all the points that she's frittered her way from the good positions she's had, that's exactly how she commented to me. She says, like, boy, if I had just played well in those positions where my opportunities were, she'd be on the leaderboards.
Exactly. So maybe in future years, still very young player.
Absolutely.
We'll see her fighting for the top spots, but she's been very shaky, and it just seems like even if she gets a fantastic position against Irina, I have my doubts that she'll be able to convert it into a win. That being said, really, Irina needs to at least have a possibility to win.
Exactly.
Because a draw might put her out of contention.
Sure.
And it all depends on this game, the
Also,
game Zatonski and Neova.
And let's see how that game developed. Again, Anna, co-leader in the lead with Irina, with the white pieces, against Katya Nemkova, who, by the way, again, her first debut event, +1 for Katya. She's played very well, and Anna's going to have a hard time winning, which is exactly what she needs to do. Anna opened up with her standard queen pawn, Nimzo Indian defense, classical variation queen c2. Now, at the highest levels, this line of play has been very, very popular with this defense d7, d5. A line of play that Vladimir Kramnik used in the candidates tournaments to good effect as black, usually drawing and neutralizing white's advantage. However, Anna's happy. She does have her 2 bishops, and black does have a safe king. Black will be looking to counterattack in the center and to equalize. Bishop a6, this is like one of those moves that I really like. When I was a kid, I always thought the bishops absolutely 100% when you play a move like b6 or g6, you're just fianchettoing.
But the Nimzo and the Queen's Indian is showing that, hey, that's not always true.
That's not always the case. In fact, the bishop pops its head out here on the a6 square, not only attacking white's queen, but also putting pressure on the e2 pawn as well as the f1 diagonal. Now things can get very, very subtle indeed. Queen c2 looks like a normal retreat. Oops, I beg your pardon. I clicked the wrong mouse.
You're
Queen
no Hikaru.
I know Hikaru. That's an understatement, boy. Queen c2. White also has a very interesting choice of queen a4, queen d7, and the crazy move queen c2. In this position, the idea is that the queen on d7 might be misplaced, as white has the opportunity of doubling black's pawns on the king side.
What do you have against queen d7? It's
yeah,
barraging against
right.
this move.
Well, no. But queen a4 was not played.
Instead, queen
Anna.
c2. Of
Queen
course,
c2.
I'm joking because also in the Irina Krush game, you criticized harshly this queen d7.
Oh, well, that was just a bad move. Okay, so h7, h6, and now Anna's to play. Okay, so here's the situation for Anna. She does not want to really trade this knight because in the variations of bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, queen takes c7, how sweet it is. We're a pawn up. But guess what? After the move rook c8, attacking white's queen, if white's queen retreats, then black gets very good play, fast activity with a future rook c2. So capturing on f6 and capturing on c7 is... I'm greedy, but I'm not stupid. I don't.
You're not that greedy.
No. I don't want to activate my opponent's pieces for her. So, but here's one thought that Anna may be having: if she drops back with her bishop, which would be the very standard move for in these positions, maintaining the pin. Could she possibly be worried about g5, bishop g3, g4, going after the d4 pawn? I don't think so. I think
that looks pretty greedy as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Very, very weak king on the king side. After move e5, queen takes d4.
You can stick in the move e3.
E3 could come with a tempo. Rook d1 could come with a tempo, and even the move h2, h3, trying to open up lines on the king side. This is a suicide variation for Katya. Maurice, your thoughts?
Just following your analysis, Yaz, something occurred to me in this position. If the bishop does go to h4, how do you develop this light squared bishop? You might have to push this pawn at some point and allow bishop takes f1, and there is some discomfort here. So for example, a simple move like knight bd7 saying, what do you plan to do here? Because you can't fianchetto, because that's going to commit you to what looks like an unsound piece sacrifice, having to play knight takes on g5. So if you can't play that move, what do you have to do? Do you have to play e4? Will you be this aggressive and allow some line with bishop takes f1? And who do you take with? You take back with the king. And is this position, I mean, there's the threat of e5 right now, but maybe after a queen move, maybe fianchettoing the queen on this side to attack the pawn and prepare a c5 break. Black might be squirming here, suggesting possibilities that Anna has to consider. This looks like an interesting position. Of course, something like queen c6 stop it. Well, actually, queen c6 might even run into queen a6 check. This is weird chess going on. So I think that Anna is going to have to sit and analyze this and wonder, this move h6, it's kind of an interesting move. And look where she's put her bishop. She's decided to put it on f4 in the game instead of going that route. So this allows her, after bishop f4, to be able to play the move g3 when she's ready to fianchetto. That problem, it looks like she's at least resolved that temporarily. Guys?
And then also there's a possibility of taking on c7 now. Not as greedy as it was before, because we have two pieces hitting on it, so you can't get that quick counter, quite as quick counterplay. Although sometimes that pawn can be sacrificed too.
Well, if you're going to play bishop f4, it does beg the question, why did she play bishop g5 and induce the move h7, h6? The question is h7, h6 a weakness, or did Black just gain a tempo and make luft? So I think the answer is, if I'm Black, I'm very happy that you provoked me to play h6.
It's not like a Sicilian position where, I mean, the only weakness of h6 in these types of position is that someday maybe queen d2 and bishop takes h6. But we were really looking at that on positions earlier in the tournament where White had a bishop on d3 and some attacking chances.
Right,
you know?
right. So
whereas here, it's kind of unlikely. It could happen, but rare.
Right. The only reason you would want Black to have a pawn on h6 in such positions is that you're set. You've got your eye set on a g2, g4, g4, g5 type of sacrifice. Now here, in this position, a very active player, like for example, the world's #2, Aronian. Sorry, Aronian. He might very well consider a move like c7, c5, takes on c5, knight c6, sacrificing a pawn for fast development. White's pieces, king still stuck in the center, White's pieces on the squares f1 and h1. Maurice already mentioned that in case of an e2, e4 type of idea, a recapture on f1 is not the most convenient. You wouldn't want to help Black with her development by capturing this pawn, and after queen takes, I think White's in trouble, frankly. So a pawn sacrifice with c7, c5 would definitely be attractive to, again, those very active players like an Aronian, a Hikaru Nakamura, Boris Gelfand would probably go for such a sacrifice. Will we see it? Well, it'll take courage on behalf of Katya to do that.
Yeah, that would be, obviously, if Katerina can pull off a winner or even a draw in this game, that would
be huge.
A great gift to Irina Krash, who's battling against Victoria Nee. So
clear.
Definitely some drama here going on in the U.S. Championships and the U.S. Women's. Keep chiming in at our hashtag U.S. Chess Champs. We've got Andrew Latham, who said that he'd give Krash 20-1 odds to win. Nee seems afraid of Irina, and Nee Abrahabian shows that Nee can get very nervous. 20-1.
That's huge.
Way too high in my opinion. I mean, you think
This
really
sounds
out
like
of 20 games, Irina's only going to win?
Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas, 47-1. You know what happened there.
I mean, there's also a draw, right? I mean, I understand maybe you think he's not going to win very often, but even if he gets a really good position, I mean, and Irina offered, I think 20-1. 20-1 is crazy.
20-1 is insane. That's a lot. That's a lot of confidence in Irina.
That's
I think
5%.
especially with the position on the board.
Yes.
I don't think Irina's going to be that confident. She's a lot of time on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
So she's just wasting a lot of time, and the position has progressed. It looks like Ni is very confident, smooth with her ideas. Now she's trying to trade off those bishops.
Bishop H6 is
Bishop H6. I think Ni knows exactly what she's doing and playing like it.
Well, 3-1 or 2-1, even if you're a big Irina supporter and thinks that she can crawl her way out of any bad position, which is a totally reasonable opinion to have.
Sure,
She is the only grandmaster in the tournament. I think 2-1 or 3-1, those are more the numbers that we would be looking at, and even those are a little generous considering the position on the board.
Right.
We've also got another comment from Jim Ratliff who says, "It's my first time watching live coverage of the U.S. chess champs, and they say that he says that you guys rock." Thank you, Jim, and thanks for joining us. We hope to get a lot of new listeners for this finale, this climax of a thrilling championship. So
Absolutely.
Thanks of you newbies for joining us, and feel free to hashtag us any question, even beginners questions, at hashtag US Chess Champs. We'd be glad to address them. And with that, we are going to take a quick break and be right back with more from the US Chess Championships, where we might crown 2 new champions today.
Welcome to the world of the surreal. You take the blue pawn and return to the comfortable world of chess tournaments as you know them. You take the red pawn and I'll show you a chess event beyond your wildest imagination. Welcome back to the 2014 U.S. Chess Championship, where a critical game
between Alexander Lenderman and Varuzhinakovian is going down right now. You see the intensity in their faces. A player who wins this game wins the U.S. Chess Championship, and we'll have a new U.S. Chess Champion. Neither of these players have won before. Now, we haven't checked into this game in a while. It started out with the move 1c4.
Let's see where we stand. So
Catalan.
Yeah, kind of a Catalan. A key moment, and VAR took a lot of time on this. Earlier I had pointed out the three main options for black. VAR chose the option that I like best. Capturing on c4, check was played, knight d7, queen takes c4, knight f6, knight f3, a6. The idea behind the move a7, a6 is to set up for b5 and bishop b7 very quickly. White dropped his queen back, so now the move b5 does not come with a tempo, and in fact is a mistake thanks to the move knight d4, and there's a discovered attack against this rook on a8, and this variation is known to be excellent for white. So after queen c2 came c5, knight c3, and VAR is thinking about his move here.
Hard to believe this new stat that's coming in.
What's the new
I
stat?
can't even believe it's real, but Ed Gonzalez, the chess trivia guru, gave it, so I gotta believe it's real. But apparently the 1963 U.S. Chess Championship was the last time two players tied for first in the last round in a round-robin format. Doesn't that seem unbelievable?
Sorry, say that again?
Since 1963, you've never had a tie for first in a round-robin tournament between two players only.
In the last round?
Well,
I'm shocked. I can't believe that.
That does not seem possible. Maybe
I'd
the point is it's always been a winner or a larger tie.
Wow, in the U.S. Championships I won, it seemed to me that there was always a fight between two leaders going into the last round, similar to what's happening between Anna and Irina. So I'll just have to check.
Oh, no, he's saying the last time two players tied for first played in the last round.
Oh, tied, okay,
This
yes.
This is the first time since 1963 that the pairings lined up so beautifully.
Oh,
that
right.
two players tied for first played in the final round.
Well, it was like I said, Jen, you know, you scripted it for us. You did a great
job.
job.
We were really lucky, guys. I mean, when you see this happen, it's like Swiss.
Yeah.
I mean, you think, you know, okay, so these guys went to the end. All right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to pair Jacobian against Lenderman, right? Let's just make them play. And it just turned out that they played. And it's incredibly lucky. Mm-hmm. And you're literally, he's pointing out, going back
to 63.
Over 50 years.
Right.
To find that happening, which is incredible. Which just shows, you know, it's just one of those quirks of the round robin system that this just doesn't happen.
One of the deficits, not the perks.
I said quirks.
Quirks.
Actually.
Oh, I thought you said quirks.
But I agree with deficit. I do agree with that word. You know, I've talked about the small tweak that I believe would make a lot of sense in a round robin, which is to pair the top players automatically into the final few rounds. So I believe that number one and number two, well, I would take the top four players. And after thinking about it, I have this idea. Take the top four players, automatically see them into the last three rounds. That means one's going to play two, one's going to play three, one's going to play four, two's going to play four, two's going to play three. Those players are going to play in the last three rounds. And you should be able to work it out after colors, after they've chosen that it's no issues there. The better minds than me as far as arbiters are concerned can work that out. And on top of that, there's a small tweak. This is actually a bigger tweak that would be to the system, that the last three rounds should be left open as to who you will pair, so that the organizers can choose, after seeing how the first several rounds go, who they want to see play those last three rounds, how those four players will play against each other. In a tournament like this, you would never have what happened today, that is an underdog like Lenderman facing off against Jacobian, because Jacobian would be with the top four.
Exactly.
But this is something that happens once every 51 years. So I'm not going to use this as a refutation of my idea.
No, definitely not. Although, and it's such a tight field as the U.S. Championship. Kamsky is a clear favorite in the tournament, but the other players, I don't think you would have such a high chance. I mean, I don't think we would be confident enough for that system to be really foolproof. Mm-hmm. I mean, one idea that I've heard before that I also think could be fun is a round robin that's 10 rounds, and then you have a few rounds of Swiss at the very end. so that people can replay each other and the people with the most number of points have to face off. So it's kind of similar to having a round robin followed by a knockout, except maybe a little bit more condensed. Wouldn't take, 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks to finish it all. So there are a lot of rooms for innovation, but hey, we're lucky, right?
Exactly.
This is super thrilling. In fact, it couldn't have been better, really.
And let's enjoy it. So what has happened after knight c3? Now what VAR really wants to do is he wants to play this move b7, b5, but he's worried that after the move b5, there'll be a discovered attack against his rook, which he is desperate to avoid after the move knight e5. Your rook, it can't move to either b8 or a7 because then knight c6 comes, forking queen and rook. So VAR played a move that looks strange on its surface, but has actually been played quite often in these types of positions. He's moved his rook to a7. Looks bizarre, but what Black's idea is very simple. He wants to get off this diagonal so that he can play b7, b5, bring his rook over to the c file, and then fianchetto his bishop. Awkward maneuver, but if he manages it, he'll equalize. Bishop e7. Essentially, the only move for white to really challenge what Black is doing is to play the move d4, b5, and then the game develops in these patterns that I was showing. One of the things that white has to be worried about is that when the pawns get traded either on the c5 or d4 square, the resulting pawn formation is very balanced, and you see a lot of draws resulting from those 4 versus 4, 2 versus 2 types of positions.
We've got a question from one of our audience members, and they ask, I heard, this is from Rank Weiss, and he probably hasn't looked at a lot of your games, Yasser, because he says, I've heard the English is long and drawish in such an important game. Is that Lenderman's idea? Why is he doing that in the U.S. Chess Champs?
You got to choose something. English is not a bad choice at all. It's not
Kramnik, of course. I mean,
Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura.
They add it to their repertoire because it's flexible. It kind of takes away certain defenses from Black.
Exactly. Viktor Korchnoi, one of the most combative players in the history of chess, played English for decades of his career, and all openings have a reputation for being drawish. Like, you think the Grunfeld is a really, really sharp opening.
But we talked about that yesterday.
And how many variations go right down to a dead draw.
Exactly. That's why strategic and positional doesn't mean drawish. Right? I mean, of course, it's funny because I think in the more tactical lines like the Grunfeld or 1e4, which are my favorites, the climax of the game usually comes more around 20 or 30, and some of the moves like the English, there's still excitement. It's just usually a little bit later in the game.
It's delayed. The battle is delayed. The critical key moments come later.
And absolutely. I think Lenderman sees Zatonski and getting into a lot of time pressure in the last couple rounds, and that might have played into his choice as well, because if you use too much time against the English, then as the battle explodes around move 40, you may not find your way.
Exactly. Easy to trip up. I'd like to bring you to the Women's Championship game for a moment.
All right.
Arena Crush, Black. Victoria Knee, White. We're going to go back a few moves from their position. Now, when I was critical of this move, Queen d8 to d7, I said it was a wrong choice. It was postulated that the reason for that move was that we didn't want, that Irina did not want to allow her opponent to play bishop e3 to h6, and that was why she didn't commit her knight g8, e7 on the previous turn. The game proceeded as follows. We got to a position like this, castles, c2, c3, and guess what? Bishop h6 came anyway, and now the question is, why is your queen on d7? After bishop h6, b7, b6, which is what this whole idea of Irina's was, she stepped in front of her bishop, basically committing the bishop to either the b7 or a6 squares, and Victoria said, no U.S. championship for you today. I'm playing h2, h4, and I'm playing for an attack. You allow me to play h5, bishop takes g7, trade, open up the h file. I'll go queen h6 and deliver checkmate to you.
So Irina has to be really careful here. I mean, she's probably going to have to play something like f5 and rook f7 to defend against that. Or what else is there? King g.
Well, f5, h5.
I mean, no, instead of b6, maybe. Slow it down.
B6 has already been played.
Oh, it's already been played. Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, Jen. This is the position h4 Irina to play.
Oh, okay.
And
I thought
now is coming
B6 is already played, and now h4 has been played, and now it's Irina's move. So
right.
How to defend against this? Either the first thing I check is moving the f pawn and then playing rook f7, or moving the knight with the queen laterally defending. In fact, Irina did move the f pawn, but instead of f5, she played f6. Probably f5. Problem is it opens the possibility of e takes f5, and then there are also tactics on the diagonal. So f6 a more solid choice, and that's what Irina chose.
I think the reason for f6 was basically to protect the g5 square, because after f5, h5, guess what? Rook f7, h takes g6, h takes g6, bishop takes g7, and this, oh, where's my knight? I wanted to post my knight up on the g5 square, but my knight isn't there yet. I'm going to have to, it's going to take me a while. Let me go back in that case. I will take my move back. I'm going to have to bring my knights over to the king side.
Simply f5 is more weakening than f6.
Right.
And if the dark squared bishops are leaving the board anyway, a lot of times you don't want to play f6 if your bishop's living on g7 because it blocks it.
Right.
But if we're trading them anyway, it's simply a way better defensive move.
Exactly. f6, again, covering the g5 square. And also, a deeper idea is that in case of h5, g5, you get to close. But I'm not 100% sure that Irina is going to be very satisfied or even happy with this type of position where she's missing her dark square, and white still hasn't committed her king. Guess what? This king might actually go over queenside if enough lines get opened up on Irina's king.
Do you think this is forced, though? Because after h5, if we don't play g5, that doesn't look too pretty. So, Maurice, what do you think?
Well, it does look like Victoria has some attacking chances in that position, but body language looks like Irina is not that worried right now. Those lines aren't simply forcing clear attack, and she still has to find those moves, and it's not like it's just over. So if she had been caught in an opening surprise, I think she's handling herself solidly. She's willing to sit and defend and show that she can last. And already you see that slight shaking by Victoria. Chess players do that all the time when they're a little bit nervous, that just the shaking of the leg, which causes the body to shake a little bit. It's a typical twitch that chess players have. So Victoria is not clear now, even though she feels like she has a good position. She's gotten what she wanted out of the opening. She still has to prove herself against a five-time champion. Now, there's some championship games going on that's going that route. The ladies showing that they're not afraid of each other. I'd like to show you this position as well. After bishop f4, Nemkova played knight bd7, daring Zatonski to capture this pawn yet again. We know that this pawn is not an easy pawn to take. First of all, you don't want to take with the bishop because you might end up being pinned on a c-file, but the queen doesn't fare much better because of this incredible leading development that black has after bishop back and rook to c2. Black is not afraid at all in a position like this one because of that great leading development, a knight coming to d5 eventually, the attack with a rook doubling on the c line. This is just a solid, good position, great compensation for black. In yet another game we see is the game between Abrahamian and Baginskaite, where Abrahamian definitely wants to win this game so that she has a chance in the championship, not expecting the other two ladies to lose. But look at this funny knight on c7. The first thing that jumps out at you is where are the pieces, which are the good and the bad pieces. This knight on c7 is on a very strange square, and already the computer is saying that it is white that has a distinct advantage in this position. No doubt it doesn't like that knight either. Where's that knight planning to go? Just find a circuit for it. The knight is a funny piece. It looks like it went to a6 and c7. In fact, that's what it did. Very strange maneuver in this position. And talk about misplaced pieces. Yes, that position on our top board right here, I think that black's already in trouble, personally. Let me see if I can have the current position on the board. Why do I say that? I myself have played into hedgehog positions before, pawn on c4. I like this idea. Rook on a7 actually won one of my best games, top 5 games against Grandmaster Shabalov using this exact maneuver, rook a7 and the bishop on b7. But the problem here is that Linderman timed it perfectly as far as opening up the game with the move d4. Sooner or later, a bishop could land on e3, or a rook will land on d1, rook on c1. And Black's comfort level with his development is a little bit uncertain. What Black really wants to do is play the move bishop to b7, and I played the move queen a8, really burying my rook in that game. But the way the center is opening up, these options don't exist in the hedgehog, where White has e4, d5, and that kind of push. And I have a feeling that Black's already worse here because of just this discombobulation, this disharmony on this side. Not losing, but I think he's going to have to figure this out. And the worst part for him, he's used 44, he's down to 44 minutes. Seems like a lot of time, especially with the increment, but he's only played 11 moves. Conversely, on the other side, Linderman has 1 minute and 25 seconds, 1 hour, 1 hour and 25 minutes left in the game. 1 hour, 25 minutes. That means he's used 5 minutes. He started with 1:30. He's used less than 5 minutes because he's still not at 1:25 yet. Less than 5 minutes to get this position, while his opponent has already used almost 45 minutes to get to this position. We saw him do the same thing, Akobian, against Shanklin, and we know what happened there. He lost a horrible game, so he is not acquitting himself time management-wise really well at this stage of this, the critical game of the U.S. Championships. Guys?
Agreed. Varuzhin Akobian not using his time well. That being said, remember that I feel like Lenderman can sometimes be too practical. Like yesterday, he was playing so quickly that he missed the win, which he really saw the idea, and it just took like an extra minute, which he really could have afforded in such a dynamic position. So Lenderman's going to have to hope that, Lenderman fans are going to have to hope that he doesn't get overconfident and play too quickly. Today we are getting great questions and comments to our hashtag US Chess Champs. Antonio Fidesz Ander says, Kasparov played the English in a must-win situation in 1987 against Karpov. The English opening is great. We also got a question from Roderick Gorby, and maybe we can get another shot at the webcam at some point soon, because he asks a great question. What are the official chess pieces of the U.S. Chess Champs? Well, they're actually House of Staunton pieces that were made especially for high-level competitions. And that was an idea of the founder of the chess club here, Rex Sinkfield. He thinks that the top-level tournaments deserve top-level pieces.
Well, without question. So the issue had been that Digital Game Timer, DGT, created boards and clocks so that as the players moved their pieces and pressed their clocks, the moves would be sent and streamed in real time over the internet. The problem was that because of the coils and radio signals in the base of the pieces, really cheap garbage wooden chess pieces were created for the original DGT and have been kept.
Garbage sounds so different when you say it than when Maurice says it. When Maurice describes the move as garbage.
Okay.
I think we need to have a montage of both of you saying garbage.
All right. But Frank Camerata was commissioned by our club to create really, really beautiful, high-quality chess sets with really fine craftsmanship on the pieces. So that the players would not...
We can see them right here. I love the carving on the knight. The knight is often the clue to a great chess piece. So thank you to House of Staunton. And you can actually pick up those pieces at House of Staunton. You can also go to uscfsales.com. And
these exact pieces you can get?
Not these exact ones, but other House of Staunton pieces.
Of course.
Yes.
Wonderful set.
Have similar designs.
If I may take a moment to also thank the St. Louis Chess Club for donating the DGT boards to the Millionaire Chess Open, so that we can use them at that competition. So we definitely appreciate the kind of support that the St. Louis Chess Club has for chess in America. They are definitely leaders in that area.
Absolutely. So thanks for your questions, guys. Susan Polgar is also just chiming in. She mentions that Akobian is down by 45 minutes on the clock versus Lenderman, and Kamsky is slightly better versus Friedel. Susan, of course, at Webster University, so she's basically a St. Louis local. Yep. We also have a question. We also have a comment. We had a great question, actually. Somebody asked, Yaz would definitely know, oh, sorry, which player in the field, this is from Tim Wolf, actually asks, who was the last IM to be U.S. champion or co-champion? I bet Yasser will know.
Stuart Rachels.
Of course, because you guys both tied in the same year back in 1989.
Right, with Roman Gingiashvili.
So the three of you, and now in this tournament, of course, it's impossible for an IM to tie for first because it's an all Grandmaster field.
Exactly.
The last clear first by an IM was back in 1954, and that was by Arthur Bisquire, before, of course, he became a GM.
Right.
So,
and I remember John Grief, but John Grief tied for first with Grandmaster Luboš Kabalik, I believe in 1972. But he was an IM when he tied for first. But today, the U.S. champions are Grandmasters, without question.
Now we also got a question about what our plans are for after this tournament. Yasser, what are you doing?
Well, of course, I'm going to be watching the Dubai World Blitz Championships and Rapid Chess Championships. Then I'm going to be watching the action on Tromsø, the Olympiad. That's always great fun. The Olympics are, I think 181 teams have registered for that event. That's a big record. And then the Sinquefield Cup, the big event of the year.
That is going to be amazing, indeed. Right. And actually, that's going to be starting on August 27th. Before that, I'm going to be in Las Vegas. There's the National Open. That is the U.S. Chess Federation national event. I'm also going to be playing some poker tournaments. I'm actually an ambassador for Poker Stars, and they're big supporters of chess, too. They sponsor the U.S. Chess League.
And they have a tournament each year, don't they?
At the Isle of Man. They're starting a new international.
There you go. So
chess, poker, Vegas. We got the Millionaire Open, the National Open coming up, and I think a lot of players are going to be out for that as well.
I'll be playing in the National Open myself.
Yes, Maurice will be in the National Open.
Pretending that I remember how to move chess pieces.
Maurice, you're coming out of retirement, Maurice?
You know, it's a vacation. Plus, it's a workcation because I'm going to be also going to Planet Hollywood to check out the site and make sure everything's going well for the Millionaire Chess Open. So I'm just putting them together, trying to remember how to move some pieces. But the National Open is a fantastic event. Al Losoff and his group, they definitely run a fabulous event for all. So I highly recommend folks go to that. It's just one of the most fun tournaments I have ever gone to here in the U.S., well organized. So I'll be going to Vegas, then running my summer camps during the summer, of course, back here for the Sinquefield Cup, and doing the final preparations for the Millionaire Chess Open in October.
Yeah, lots of exciting things for plan for all of this. But I think a couple days of sleep first. I'll also be back in St. Louis even before the Sinquefield Cup.
Right.
There's the U.S. Chess School going on with the top girls in the nation.
Absolutely.
So that's going to be really fun. Some of these girls who are watching Yasritha and Irina and saying, hey, that should be me in a couple of years. And the girls in this camp were pretty scary. Like 9 years old and 2,100. So I think
beat them now, Jan.
They have realistic chances for coming into this women's championship in just a couple of years. Wonderful. So we are going to take our first break of the day, and as usual, we've got some Fischer puzzles for you to solve, so your chess brain doesn't get too relaxed as we take a little break from what could be the finale of the U.S. Chess Championships. We might have a U.S. champion and a women's champion after this very round. welcome back to the 2014 U.S. Chess Championships and U.S. Women's. We hope that you had a relaxing break of solving that Fischer problem. And Grandmaster Maurice Ashley has the story on that.
Indeed, the winning move, a beautiful move. Rook takes on e3, but that's not enough. If that's all you saw, then you didn't quite solve the puzzle. Let's take a look at it. This move, rook takes e3, was played by Fischer. Naturally, this king is very exposed. It's not clear exactly how to exploit that situation, but this exchange sacrifice definitely attracts the king into the middle. Maybe you'd be thinking queen e7 check, queen b6 check, but did you find the real move? Queen takes on f4 check, a truly spectacular move that forced his opponent to resign. Kind of a little bit of an early resignation, though it's not unwarranted here. Of course, if you take the queen, then simply bishop to h6 is a gorgeous checkmate. How many times have you got to play a checkmate like this in your games? And anything else is just bad news. I mean, this move right here is possible, but you're going to lose your bishop. So what do you do to contain the pain? A move like king to e2 is naturally going to be met by an attacking line, knight to d4 check, and that bishop is being forked. And a move like king f2 is also bad because of many lines. We could start with knight g4, we could do knight e5. The position is just actually horrible for white. He'll be defending against the great Bobby Fischer. Little, like I said, a little early resignation. He's busted, but he could have played on. He decided, Bobby just sacked his queen. I don't want to mar the beauty of the queen sacrifice right at that moment. So, did you solve the puzzle? It's a pretty famous one. You should have seen it if you've gone over any Fischer collections. Guys?
Thank you, Maurice. A game on our top board between Lenderman and Akobian has taken a very important turn. On his last move, Var has agreed to a split pawn formation on the queen side. His last turn, a key moment here, he could have captured with the bishop. He could not have, of course, captured with the knight because of the pin, but he recaptured with the pawn, allowing himself a weakness on c5, and it will, I prefer Lenderman's position. It's not so easy to get at that weakness. The most natural idea is to play b3. Oops, my arrows are terrible. Bishop a3 and knight a4. And I think that Var is going to be thrown on the defensive for a long time in this game.
Hey, remember when we had these pawn structure last? That was in Irina Kretsch's game against Anna Zatonski.
And we saw how difficult it was for black, for
yeah.
Anna.
She ended up picking up Anna ended up sacrificing the c-pawn.
Right.
So she won a pawn that way, because otherwise she would be down a pawn with like a lot of bad pieces. So maybe we'll see something similar in this game. Now, Varushina-Kovian is kind of equalizing the clock times a little bit here, or rather, Lenderman is using a lot of times in order to equalize that.
I see.
So that might not be as much of a factor as we expected.
Well, okay, Var about to make his move, so I think
Lenderman
Lenderman
has just played bishop to g5, actually. So instead of Lenderman played bishop g5 instead of your move.
Okay, bishop to g5 was played by Alex, putting pressure on the f6 knight. And by the way, this pin on of the rook on d7, that is annoying. Maurice mentioned the idea of queen a8. First of all, I do like the move queen a8, not only getting out of this pin on the e-file, but in turn pinning the knight on f3 so that the bishop on g2 is attacked. However, with the king still in the center, there are tactical issues that...
Right, you can't castle because then that would lead to rook takes d7.
Precisely so.
So that's a bit annoying.
Exactly.
You want to show that on the board?
Yeah.
Like
so
if white makes a random move like rook c1.
Yeah, we would love to castle and bring our king to safety, but after rook takes d7, knight takes, bishop takes, 2 pieces for the rook would be a winning material advantage for Lenderman.
That's right, and the in-between move, bishop takes f3, is not going to do anything because rook takes a7 is in the position.
I am sorry, what was that,
Oh,
Jen?
I was saying if Just at the in-between move, bishop takes f3. Well, actually, you have a lot of moves.
I
you
could
also have
recapture
bishop
the
takes
bishop.
f3,
I could capture
or
the
rook takes a7. So there's plenty of good moves here.
For white, absolutely.
Just that you should always at least calculate to the end of all the captures. Guys.
Yeah.
I mean, at the very least, sometimes you need to do a little more than that.
Exactly.
But if you're stopping your calculations, whether captures still to be made, you're going not deep enough.
Or we would say cruising for a bruising.
That's a way to put it.
Maurice, you've got some thoughts as well.
Looking at another game, it really looks like the champions or the potential champions are playing some shaky chess. If you look at the game between Zatonski and Neova, Neova played fearlessly here. Like I said, instead of worrying about that pawn, she played the move knight b to d7, and Zatonski went into a deep think. She's now at 39 minutes. 39 minutes, even worse than a Jacobian, and she's only played 12 moves. So that could come back to haunt her. And in this position, she decided she didn't want to see a potential equalizer with the move c5, so move the queen again. She put it on c6, looking to stop this pawn from advancing. Not impressive to me. My problem in this position is this bishop on f1, a long way away from solving this problem. I personally would not be afraid of seeing a move like this. There are different ways to play knight d5 for starters, to attack the bishop, chase it back, and guard the pawn. Another move is the simple rook to c8, preparing to move this knight, maybe even to b8 with the idea of c5. That's an interesting idea. Not obvious how you refute this queen sitting on c6, which is probably why she sat there for so long thinking about how do I do this? Do I put the queen on c6? Will it be disrupted anytime soon? So she's put a challenge to her opponent to play this line, but not impressive at all is the opening so far from Anna Zatonski. Looking at another game that's gotten totally wild, Knee versus Crush. This game, look at that. Knee is going for the throat. She didn't play that line with h6. Instead, she played f4 and now the knight to e3. She's looking to really attack here, but this is one of those weird pawn formations you don't see every day. This thing here looks weird. I don't know what you'd call this. Some kind of upper hedgehog. I don't even know what to call it. What is this formation? Looks bizarre, but both sides still jockeying for position. It looks as though, to me, that Crush has solved any real problems that she had by being able to have this pawn formation be so solid. She has a move like d5 right now if she likes, being even more active in the position. I think she's solved most of her problems in this game. And finally, we want to look at the game between Kamsky and Friedel. Super solid position, but Friedel made a very concrete decision. He played the move d6 to d5, willingly shutting in his bishop. Also freeing this bishop on this diagonal seems a bit weird, and Kamsky has jumped all over it with the move a5. Kamsky definitely has the initiative here. His piece is totally harmonious. This hidden bishop having a lot of say on this diagonal. The queen can't go to c7. Also, this knight will probably be relegated to defensive duty back on f8. So I'm liking white here. I think white has some good chances. Kamsky being the player who's most playing like he wants to win, even though he's playing typical Kamsky style. Very solid, not any real risk. He just likes to squeeze you like a boa constrictor. Friedel's going to have to see whether or not he can handle this championship pressure. Guys?
Thank you, Maurice. I do especially like Gada's position because of that committal move, d6, d5 by Josh, for all the reasons you mentioned, turning an active bishop on b7 into a passive one and turning this bishop on h2 into a real monster on that diagonal. So good things happening for Gada. Still, the key game going on in my mind is between Lenderman and Jacobian.
Instead of playing queen to a8, Jacobian did castle right away.
Castles right away. Okay.
And one of our listeners actually asked, John Ace 967. He said, in Lenderman Jacobian, how much will the half-open d file figure into White's strategy for the remainder of the game? Maybe that he asked that before d takes c5. So it's not that he's bad at geometry.
Yeah.
The file really only was half open at the time.
Okay. The open d file will be a key factor in White's strategy here. What White will want to do, I believe, is one day try to maneuver a knight to e5, but in the meanwhile, the very simple rook D1 to D2, followed by rook on A1 to D1, keeps the pressure on black's position, and it's not going to be easy for the second player to equalize.
Now there's a couple of issues. You can't play queen A8 still because of the rook D7 aforementioned, and you also can't play a move like H6 chasing out the bishop because bishop F6 and rook D1 looks rather strong.
Bishop F6, bishop F6, rook D1. You do.
Although maybe you could play like bishop C6 here.
Bishop C6, bishop A8, just to defend. But it's clear that it's white.
Knight can come to A4 or E4. Yeah.
It's white that's putting the screws on black's position. By no means winning, but we would all prefer to play white's position if Lenderman were to get such a game.
And another dangerous situation because now you're trying to get C5. If bishop goes back to E7, another piece joins the fray with knight to E5.
Yes.
And it's just very hard to stop all of White's pieces, which seem all geared towards the same plan, which is to occupy that D file.
Put your pieces on good squares and good things will happen. I do believe we have a special guest.
Grandmaster Robert Hess, who's been doing commentary for the last week and a half over at Leicester's with Grandmaster Ben Feingold.
And by the way, let me get in a shout to the cooking staff at Leicester's. Oh, wow.
Oh, I thought you were going to compliment Robert and Ben on their analysis.
No. They're getting all of the good food. They have a good time over there. But the food has been wonderful, and thank you to
I heard their analysis is pretty good, too. The food is good, you know.
The commentary is sufferable, yeah. That's right.
No, seriously, it's been really a pleasure. Yesterday we had Ben, and he was very controversial, and he really shook things up. A lot of excitement, and so we encourage you. The Sinkfield Cup, they're going to have live commentary teams again. So
wonderful.
Obviously watching it at home, we love everybody who does that, but we'd really like you to come out, see the Hall of Fame, see the chess club for yourself. And we've got Grandmaster Robert Hess for his thoughts on this game, and he's also the founder of a site called The Sports Quotient, so it'll be interesting to see how he feels about our predictions.
And the percentages, yeah.
Exactly. He's with Maurice Ashley.
Let me say those spicy chicken wings, barbecue chicken wings from Leicester's, man, it's good stuff. All right, that said, Grandmaster Robert Hess, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Maurice. Great to be here.
Robert, we made some bold predictions. We go out on the line here. I predicted Lenderman would win the tournament. Yaz felt like Akobian was for choice, except in the playoffs where Kamsky would win. I predicted Irina winning the tournament. What's your feeling about right now? What's your commitment to this moment? And also, what are the odds, the numbers? You're a sports quotient kind of guy.
Well, you're making me a gambling man, Maurice. Usually I don't.
There's no money on the line.
There's no money on the line, but you're making me a betting man.
Okay.
I do like Lenderman's chances. He's up on the clock. Has a better position. And Akobian just looks shaky. I've been watching on the camera feed. When they go to his game, he just looks a little uncomfortable. So I would say at this point, probably 65, 70% Lenderman winning, the rest a draw. I don't think VAR can really win this position. I think Lenderman's playing cautiously but optimistic chess, so he's really in the lead right now. And over on the women's side, I don't know, because Anna Zatonski spent a lot of time, and her position isn't that great. Irina Krush looks like her king might be in some danger, but if she can parry off the attack, then she's doing well. And Tatev is playing some strange chess as well, so that's kind of a toss-up. I don't even know what to give you there, but probably chances favor Krush a bit, but I really don't know.
All right, so you're not being fair because you actually got to look at some positions before you said anything. Well, now let's look at some positions. This game here looks as though, as you said, Varushin has been quite shaky, and now he's allowed this move E4. Bishop G5, we weren't necessarily thrilled by, but it still looks like it's a good position for White.
Yeah, White is definitely in control here. I think Bishop G5, I would have went E4 instead and played in the center. But no, White is doing great here. The rook on A7 is going to be misplaced for a while. Well, it's better, but I wouldn't say winning. I mean, for example, a move like pawn to H6 here for Black looks like, there's some fighting chances. I think if we trade off some pieces, there's a chance to be a pawn down ending for Black, in which case it's holdable. But as Yasser was saying earlier, and I know if he were White, he would just love to have this position, pressing squares.
I think we all would love to have this position
we would love
White, for sure. So switching back to another game, what about the Kamsky game against Friedel? What is your opinion here?
Yeah, I don't really know what Josh has done in the last few moves. I thought after white went pawn to a5, I thought black should just went pawn b5 and was more or less a normal position. But now I like Kamsky's position for sure.
This move d5 seems weird after having the pawn on d6, releasing the bishop.
It releases the bishop on h2 and it kills your bishop on c, and that was on b7, now is on c6. And now the pawn structure can change in white's favor after a takes b6. That definitely helps white. So I think Kamsky is really happy right now.
Indeed. So we'll be following that game. On the ladies' side, you did talk about these positions, and it looks as though Crush has played the move d5. Have you ever seen this pawn formation in your life? Can you remember ever seeing pawns look exactly like this?
Well, I played similar openings for white, actually. It's funny, this knight c1, knight d1 idea, c3. I like white. I mean, for example, if I were to move, I think if I can make this move e5 now, there's really a fight on this king side. And white is, of course, going to castle queenside at some point. But after e5, you're already threatening the black structure. And it's really up in the air. I think white is probably a little bit better here. And just the chances, I mean, the attacking chances are very favorable. But if, Crush can ward off those attacks, then she'll be in the driver's seat, I think.
Okay, so this game, Zatonski and Neova, Zatonski's been using a lot of time to get not a great position.
No, I think she just didn't know the opening that well, because after h6, bishop f4 is not particularly strong move. It's not a weak move by any means, but it doesn't really fight for an initiative. And Neova went this knight bd7, which was really great, allowing a pawn sacrifice that would have turned out in her favor. So her position is quite simple and easy to play, and I think it's very good for her, and she's up in the time as well.
Surprising that players are playing for the championship title, or maybe not so surprising, they're playing some nervous chess right now. They don't look exactly great. You look at Akobian, you look at here with Zatonski, you look at people who've been here before, Irina Krush. What do you think? The pressure might be getting to them?
It could be pressure, but it's a long term as well, so they might be tired. But as Ben was saying yesterday, and we've discussed this frequently over at Leicester, is that there's just been not the greatest chess been being played. I mean, you can attribute to various things, being tired, being nervous, but at the end of the day, there's just been a lot of bad moves, and it's been very strange. And I mean, it's easy for me to say as a commentator. I played plenty of bad moves in the U.S. Championship myself, so I know what that's like. But it's been very weird. And yesterday was a very strange day where every result seemed to flip immediately when one side was winning. Like Josh Friedel had a great position, was outplaying Shanklin pretty easily, and all of a sudden he's just losing. Yeah, I don't know.
And Lenderman should have won if he had found this.
Right, Lenderman should have won. I mean, everything.
That.
The Gareev losing to Ehrenberg, he was better, then all of a sudden he's losing because he doesn't want a repetition. I mean, there's just crazy chess going on, which is great. It's really exciting.
For the commentators, we love it.
Yeah, we love it, but as a chess player, it makes me struggle. I'm like, what is going on here? I can't say that they're nervous, they're not nervous. I think it looks like Akobian's nervous, and somehow Lenderman has nerves of steel. That's really the end of the day what we were saying. Lenderman is always playing to win. Even yesterday, his black against Molnar, he was just trying to win from the very beginning, from the first move. And that's why we like Lenderman, is that he's trying. And that's not to say that the other players aren't trying, but yesterday, Akobian against Kamsky, he was much, much better. And instead of pressing, sure, maybe he missed some moves, but the way he was playing didn't seem like he was really trying to win. It's difficult to watch that. And I think Lenderman is really showing that he's fighting. He's really trying to win. That makes him the front runner, in my opinion. That's why I gave him up to 70% chances to win this game.
Well, one final question. Yesterday, Ben came on the show, and he had a lot to say about what he thinks the future of American chess. He said that the old players are finished. He said Kamsky's done, Onischuk is finished. It's all about the rise of the young players. You're a young player yourself, having played in this tournament a couple of times. What's your opinion about such a serious remark? Us older guys are wondering, what's up with that?
Well, I wouldn't say it's the rise of Robert Hess, but the young players, I mean, I've shown great chess. I mean, Daniel Naroditsky, he looks much better in his game, probably will win this game, I think. So he's going to have 6 out of 11. It's a great score. And as for the quote-unquote old guys, they're not so old, first of all. I would say under 40 years old is not particularly old. But in chess terms, I mean, Onischuk has not had a good event. I'm not going to say that, shows how he is as an overall player, because he still is capable of playing very good chess, but it's clear that he's not as strong as he used to be. Very clear. Kamsky's the same way. I mean, just a year or two ago, he was 2760. Now he's in the low 2700s. No one's going to criticize that. I wish I was 2700. But he's not the same player he used to be. And I would say that, yeah, Ben's right. I think the older players are not playing that well in this tournament. I guess Akobian's one of the older players, funny enough.
He's only 30.
Yeah, he's only 30. But yeah, I would say that he's right. A couple of years ago, they tried to say changing of the guard here in St. Louis, and now is really that time. It seems that the younger players are really taking advantage and their youth, their new ideas, and really outplaying some of these old guns.
And they seem fearless as well. I mean, I see Shanklin walk in, and it's like, I might lose some horrible games, but you put the wrong moves in front of me, and I'll just blow you off the board.
Yeah, Shanklin's beating all the leaders, so he just wants to play the person in first place every round. And finally, maybe he'll find himself in first place. But at the same time, it's not like he's playing perfect chess either. He played a pretty bad game yesterday against Josh and ended up winning. And I can kind of consider it flukish in a way. But it's not to say the young guys are playing perfectly, but Lenderman has really shown something special here. I mean, he's kind of been in this a strong GM for years now, but nobody foresaw him getting first place. I mean, a lot of people I spoke to thought he would get towards the bottom of the tournament. Not more towards the middle, but on the bottom side, he's playing for first place.
Indeed.
And it's incredible.
Well, thanks to Grandmaster Robert Hess for joining the show. We appreciate your insights.
Always a pleasure.
Get back over to Lester's and those spicy barbecue chicken wings.
This baklava today.
When is our next break? Guys?
Thank you both. Interesting discussion about the changing of the guard, the rise of the new generation. I don't agree with Ben in that regard. I'm looking at the game of Gada Kamsky, and I'm sitting there saying experience does matter, and it seems to me that Gada is doing his best to put himself in a position to be able to defend his title, hoping for a draw in our key game. But he's got his position, and I'm expecting...
plenty of players, young players, would be thrilled if Gada retired and gave him an open shot at this title. Because, heck, even as Robert himself said, even a Gada Kamsky, who's not as sharp as he used to do, is still the favorite in the tournament.
Should he win and get into tiebreak, everybody suddenly rushes to the veteran, and says, I want to place my bet there. But I will make a further prediction, by the way. I'm very, very bold. Not only the youthful players that we're seeing at this championship, America has a remarkable lineup of future all-stars coming.
Right.
And I see a really bright future for U.S. championships in American chess in the very near future as we see this rise of the generation right behind this group, the Sam Shanklins of the world. Look at Shritha, for example, by the way.
The one behind them, meaning the Sevian, the Troth, the Liang, the Chiang.
Precisely.
Those guys, of course I'm missing some names, but those are four of the top ones.
Exactly, and they, to my mind, are like incredibly talented. They're so much better at chess at their ages than I was. It's not even close.
I mean, even better than this generation, I think. I mean, maybe not Nakamura, maybe not Robson. Robson was very fast rising.
Definitely.
But I think there's a wider base of really talented players that are extremely young. And a lot of that Rising Stars program with Gary Kasparov we had on the show yesterday.
Exactly.
There seems like there's more opportunities, and there's also better carrots in a way.
Well,
because they're watching this championship. We've got another one, Akshat Chandra, who is about 14 years old, and he just got his first Grandmaster norm. He's tweeting at us every single day. So they're watching this, and they're saying, like, hey, like, I could be playing for 40K and being on the big screen in just, a couple years. And that's a powerful motivation. It's not just the money, it's the exposure, and it's the conditions that are on offer. And there are some other contributing factors as well, but I think that's a big one.
Yeah, and they're being groomed. I mean, it's a fantasy variation that you could have Gary Kasparov as a personal trainer, right?
That's right, and that you could also be here
Hello.
at the St. Louis Chess Club. The fantasy variation, that is an actual chess variation in the Caro Kann. In fact, I believe there was a hilarious game between Shanklin and Robson in that line, speaking of our current young generation of stars.
Right.
You guys can look that up. That was held here. I think it was actually at a junior close. We've got a couple questions from our audience members. It's been a great day for questions. Thanks, guys. And thanks to chess.com and chesskid.com for giving up memberships. Jason Shearer asks, what's the difference between the National Open in Vegas and the U.S. Open in Orlando? Well, they're actually very different tournaments. The National Open in Vegas is a 6-round tournament with big prize money. It's a chess festival. There are chess camps. There's a Game 10 championship, which is also a national title and event.
Simul's and lessons and seminars and all that good stuff. Yes.
Right, and then in the U.S. Open, it's a longer event, and there's some great tournaments there. There's a National Girls Invitational. There's the Denker Tournament of High School Champions. There's the Barber
events. Yep.
But it's a longer festival. So.
And it's a moment for the USCF, all the board members of the United States Chess Federation, all the delegates, all the state delegates, all to congregate and to share their experiences and what's working in their locales and to debate national United States Chess Federation policy.
That's right. That's right. So both great events. And we think you should go to both of them.
Exactly.
You know, everybody's getting addicted to chess now, right?
Right. Okay, so by the way, just to toss it out there, Akobian did make the move, H7, H6,
so
that
he has
Robert
played that.
Hess suggested. Just a quick check on their times, by the way, because that's been a factor almost since move 2 or 3 when VAR went into a deep
He's making up for it a bit, as I mentioned before. He's now got 38 minutes, and Lenderman, meanwhile, getting down to 52. So yesterday, Lenderman really missed his moment. So I think today he's trying not to do that, making sure that he sees all the possibilities open to him in this position.
Exactly. And then just to bring up the game between Arena Crush for a moment, because when Robert, oops, I got the wrong one, I apologize, because when Robert, in his interview, I just wanted to echo his sentiments that he expressed that the action, D6, by the way, the pawn structure, let's call it a hippopotamus.
Oh, really? But wait.
You know, like
we're going to talk about hippos again?
Yeah,
I already
exactly.
learned how not to die.
Okay, so D6, D5, breaking in the center, and it's this key move here that I think Victoria should essay, which is the move E4, E5, a move that Robert championed as well. So a very simple point that if the pawn on E5 is captured, then, pardon me, I captured the wrong one.
Yeah.
Wrong pawn. F takes G5, H takes G5, and now this nice move, Knight G4, opening up the possibility of Queen takes G5 would see Arena in deep trouble. It's that sudden a turnaround.
I mean, Rook F5 is possible.
Which would just encourage me to develop my knight, right, with a tempo. Oops. I can't.
You were trying
I
to play knight
I keep
E3.
trying to play knight E3. Okay, after Rook
But
F5.
it doesn't look like it's a move that's going to live for long, yeah.
Right, knight E2. I really like White's attacking chances here. Great compensation. This pawn on G5 really does stick out like a sore thumb. I was thinking about a different approach by Arena. I was thinking that after the move E5, she might play F5 herself, trying to keep her king closed. But again, nice attacking options here for Victoria. There is, you know, a standard kind of piece sacrifice in the position. And I do believe a move has been made, and let me just catch up and get up to date with the position. But for the moment,
Well, instead of E5, Victoria's played just Knight G4 immediately.
Knight G4 immediately. Immediately. Okay.
Well, I
That
guess
appears all right. It wasn't the move that had the snap and crackle of E5 to my eyes.
But it could have some of the same ideas, because now E5 after you're starting to play E5 and
So-
F5, it's hard to get F5 in because of Knight F6, right? Or
Right.
if you play F5 right away, we can take and then
Right. So.
we can take and then D5 is loose. Yeah.
And pardon me, if F5 right away. Sorry.
Well.
Oh, sorry. Without Bishop D7, right? So.
Yeah. So if F5 immediately, that's a move that has to be considered here.
Definitely.
And there's some possible. Well, I was thinking that if takes on F5, you can't take it back with a piece because G5 is hanging.
Mm-hmm.
And so after pawn takes G5, we have to start. The sacrifices don't look like they're enough because that king
No, they
just
don't,
hides
right?
very, very pleasantly on the H7 square.
Exactly. So if we don't like piece sacrifices, I'm not so sure I'm absolutely thrilled about Knight E5 either. In this particular case, it looks to me like White. Black is for choice, pardon me. I would prefer Black's position. So Knight G4 looks like a misstep, but Irina's going to have to play well to prove that to be the case. I did like the move e5, and once again, I thought that Irina would have troubles handling that move.
Well, maybe instead of knight e5, white should keep pieces on the board and play like if f5, just bring the knight back to e3 and at least keep a little bit of pressure on the position.
Right. Now in this position, the thing I do like about this position for black is that after a move, for example, like g5, g4, she can shut down the position so her king's not that exposed. That would be a defensive reaction. I would see Irina as playing for bishop b7, followed by d5, d4 quickly, trying to seize the initiative. And again, I just think that black has the easier.
Too slow.
Well, yeah, it's slow, and it looks like it's going to lose a tempo or two. Maurice, your thoughts?
Well, Yaz, I think this is precisely the kind of position that Irina Krush wants. Why? Because now Victoria is thinking about playing for a win. This is unbalanced, it's crazy, it's chaotic, hippopotamus or not. It's just that kind of position where her opponent is going to play for something, and she has the black pieces. She may have wanted to make the position crazy and interesting. Her opponent's done it for her. So the only question is, can she survive the attack that's coming at her, the storm? So taking a look at some of these lines, they're really fascinating, Yaz. After the move d5, and just at this time, my computer decides to crash. Okay, it was just uploading. d5, the move e5, there's a bizarre line that the computer is giving after takes, knight g4 in this position. The move knight f5, ignoring the pawn completely, just saying you want it, you can have it. Queen takes g5 check, looks very unusual. Black's protection is white's pawns in the way. And now it's black's turn to look for central action. White can always play rook g8 or queen to g7 as needed to defend this side. This knight is a bastion in the position, and it's not so obvious how white breaks through here. Now, me personally, I'd still want to have the white pieces in such a position because it just looks like the king is weak. But then again, the g-pawn is hanging. There's some activity for black, and like I said, it's easy to solve the attack because there's just no attack that's going to break through anytime soon. So this position is still interesting for her. I should point out as well, actually, the move knight g4 that was played, this move can be met by the very aggressive, and I'm sure she's thinking about it, e5. That's a super aggressive move trying to attack. The point is that if you try to shut the position down, obviously now trades don't really do anything. If you try to shut the position down with this move, then this trade on e4 is quite good. If you take back with the pawn, your bishop is stuck, not being able to do anything. Queen trade's possible. Black's happy, rubbing her hands in that kind of position. But if you take back with the bishop, then this pawn is hanging. And the black pawn structure is suddenly a great wall of China, right? It's going to be hard to get through because your pawns are through. So knight takes on f5 would just snap a pawn off and say, well, why'd you do this sacrifice for? So this position after f5, after e5, f5 doesn't look good. But check out this computer line. Knight takes f6. Crazy move. If rook takes, now take on g5. And now the position is insane because after takes, queen takes, you have to keep your king in the middle of the board. King f7 maybe takes on this square, and suddenly lines are opening everywhere. Is this enough? Is this h-pawn going to be a problem? The king weak? Looks like white has some compensation here. So after rook takes f6, f takes g5, the computer is giving the odd rook to f7, allowing this to happen and saying, I'm still going to hide in the corner. Again, you find the pawns in the way, except if these pawns ever get down the board, you might see some problems as well. So a very chaotic position. I'm not sure Victoria Ni is going to be able to maneuver find her way through all these complications. It's a lot of complications here, and she's going to have to figure them out. It looks like a move indeed was played. Was it f5? I'm not sure. Let me see if I can get the position on the board for us.
She played d takes e4. Pawn takes e4.
I don't yet have that position, so I'm not going to speculate. But after knight to g4, I see what you're saying, taking on e4 immediately. And now the capture on g5 has been played. Certainly a position I think Irina wants to see happen, but a lot to play for in that game. Well, I'll let you guys analyze it in a second. I just want to point out a critical moment in the other women's game. This position here, the move knight to d5 was played by Nemkova, and it's clear that Zatonski is completely unsure of what she should be doing here because your bishop is under attack. This knight can come to f6, stop the move e4. She still will not have solved the problem of this bishop. For example, the bishop to g3, knight over to f6, and you can't push the pawn 2 squares because the knight is there. This bishop is got a problem. How do you develop your pieces? And so Zatonski trying to think on that idea how to solve the problem, and she has only 28 minutes left. She's only played 12 moves, and she's down now below 28 minutes. It looks like she has dropped the bishop back, but still serious time issue on the clock. She's going to be feeling the pressure very soon, guys. So nervy play on Zatonski's part while the other game is blowing up. Interesting moment of the championships.
That's right, and I actually have 33 minutes for Zatonski, 45 for her opponent, so only 13 moves for both players. That is dangerous. But let's take a quick look over at the championship because something big has happened there as well in our key matchup, Lenderman, Varuzhinakovian. We saw the move g5, weakening Varuzhin's king. He probably thought that he just needed to, I mean, let's go back and see how the move g5 entered the game. In fact, a lot of moves have occurred since we last checked in.
We saw the situation after h7, h6, attacking the bishop. The bishop dropped back. The queen got off the d file as
now
expected.
Rook takes c7 is no longer in the position as it was when the bishop was on g5.
Exactly. And after the queen moved, knight came back to d2, supporting the pawn on e4.
And we also have that beautiful c4 square we might hop to one day.
Right. Knight c4 is definitely on white's agenda. g7, g5.
You say that's so
big
slow.
Move, like, well, you know.
We say this move is very committal. You can't move that pawn back to d7.
Well, that was the Viktor Korchnoi anecdote. I was working with Viktor Korchnoi during his World Championship campaign in the 1980-81 cycle, and I would look at such moves in our training, and Viktor would look at me and he'd say, "Yes, sir. You do understand the pawns don't move backwards."
Oh, you would be playing g5.
I would be playing g5, and Viktor would be like, you know, there's some evil.
The look of disapproval.
Yes, absolutely. But
we got a couple more moves after this. After g5, Lenderman stuck his bishop on c7,
which is offering some kind of tactical opportunities for black. But I think that if Var had gone for this right away, oops,
we have a new champion.
We have a new champion.
One new champion and one less queen.
Exactly. So there was no tactical opportunities there based on bishop takes e4. And
so then rook c8 occurred
rook c8,
and bishop a5.
Now that's not exactly an ideal square for the bishop, an unusual square.
I guess he didn't want to put it on e3 because he was afraid that maybe there would be a knight g4 in the position, removing the dark squared bishop. So he just wanted to keep that bishop on the board. Yeah,
well, you mentioned that white wants to put his knight on c4 for very, very obvious reason. The only reason I can imagine that Var wanted to play the move with g5 was that he has in mind the move knight e5 in this position.
Well, actually, he played c4.
He played c4. Okay, I can't guess his moves. c5, c4.
I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult.
I don't know.
You don't know either, huh?
It's wild. I got to bring Maurice into this.
Well, actually, what's going on?
Sorry.
There's some ideas here, even with knight a4, threatening bishop b6 and knight b6 in the position. I think that's kind of funny.
Well,
but e4 is hanging.
Well, yeah, e4. Well, it's defended too, but crazy.
Well, yeah, what happens?
c5, c4.
It looks very unnatural, actually, knight a4. But I want to try it anyway, just because it has a tactical attempt. Just because your rook on a7 is so poorly placed, I'm looking for ways to
exploit that.
Yeah, because again, just kind of an unusual situation where bishop b6 threatens to capture an exchange, and knight b6 threatens to capture an exchange.
Exactly.
But you're looking at perhaps.
I'm looking at bishop c6. It's just saying, okay, so why did you put your knight on a4, and basically releasing this rook so that maybe I can find a better home on b7. But if you take on c4, then I'm hoping that I will be able to recapture pawn on e4. If you try knight b6. takes. I think black is happy about this trade.
And again, there's a lot of pressure on e4, isn't there? So I can't just snap on c4 with a knight because e4 just hangs.
Right.
And obviously, not my desired. I don't really want to give up my e4 pawn.
Just a lot of trades, and black has equalized. Let's just put it that way.
Hey, wait. Lenderman did play knight a4.
Okay, so he liked your
it's
idea.
funny that I was actually just looking at the move because it was tactical. I never believed because it looks so counterintuitive in terms of like actual, like the chess. It looks very concrete. Like if I win material, I want to play it, but if I don't, it looks anti-positional.
Right, because you're moving your knight out of the center. On the other
and
hand,
also removing a knight that's really nicely protecting a pawn on e4, as you point out.
Right, but you're also exposing the idea that you'll have a knight take c4, and probably what he was really afraid about was that this knight was going to come to e5 and d3.
So it's prophylactic in a way as well. Yeah.
Right. He wants to prevent that knight on d7 from getting active. So let's see how bishop c6 will be handled by white. You're not forced. There's no reason that you have to jump immediately to the b6 square. You might just want to get this guy involved in the game.
Rook to c1
rook on
first,
a to c1. That looks like a fine, upstanding move. And Akobian still has some issues that he has to solve.
Well, Akobian's moving pretty quickly since we criticized him. I think he heard kind of like the many voices of the internet, you know, from
not just us.
From the amateurs to Grandmaster Susan Polgar being like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
I think he played 10 moves.
I think the inner voice was also
the inner voice,
screaming, "Pay attention! Your clock is ticking." So rook c1, and there are tactics, because in this case, notice that the rook on c8 is not defended, so just even a direct capture like queen takes c4 is actually putting the bishop in a pin, as opposed to being victimized by some discoveries here. So some problems for VAR to solve. Perhaps bishop c6 is not optimal. Oops, I'm sorry, knight a4 was played.
So knight a4 with some concrete threats, and we're looking at bishop c6 to prevent them. What other options are there? You need to get that, I mean, you can't, I guess there's bishop d8. That doesn't look good, because then just c4 hangs after bishop takes d8. c4 hangs without any tactics in the position. So you can simply play bishop takes d8, rook takes d8, queen takes c4, and e4 is adequately defended, and we just want a pawn.
Right.
So
I'm thinking
it doesn't seem like
b8. The idea behind queen b8 is I can bring my rook, I can move my bishop and bring my rook. The idea behind queen b8 is I want to control these f4 and e5 squares so that one day I can play for knight e5 without running into a knight b6 killer move. But definitely Lenderman is bringing the heat and putting the pressure on Akobian.
And perhaps playing a move that Akobian hasn't analyzed, because again, knight a4 looks a little strange, so maybe it's not a move that, especially Akobian playing very quickly, has been adequately prepared for. And we may see him sink into a deep think here, because, hey, this could be a critical position.
And then he would like the 20 minutes that he wasted on move 3 back on his clock.
Nobody would blame Akobian for spending 15 minutes in this position, but what people blame him for is spending 10, 15 minutes on moves that should be firmly in his repertoire.
Precisely.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that we don't see Lenderman do. He's a much more practical player in that regard, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
And do you want to go take a look and see if the ladies have played any moves? Irina Krush and Victoria Nie have played a couple more moves since we checked in on them, I believe.
Okay, so things have hotted up in the game between Victoria and Irina, and I think Irina's happy with the last few captures. In this position, I was doubtful about the move knight g4, takes on e4. Victoria didn't want to recapture with a pawn right away. Maurice had pointed out already that after a queen trade, white loses her options of castling in bishop a6, and her king's a little bit misplaced. So takes on g4, recaptures, and king h8. Now Irina's king looks much, much happier on the h8 square. Bishop takes, obviously walks into f5. That's ridiculous. Whoops, maybe it's not ridiculous. Maybe this is what, maybe this is what Victoria has in mind. that in case of f5, there is a queen takes g5 and a mate threat on g7. So although that line might end up, no, it's not going to win a piece, but white will save her piece.
No,
so bishop takes e4 is probably what Victoria is going to play.
We got a pretty high-rated comment at US Chess Champ, so I think
high-rated comment?
Well, I think the hashtag must be catching on. Nakamura says 16 g5 is a pretty standard move by Jacobian. I don't understand why the commentators are going so crazy. Well, you know what you say? You're no one in chess until you've been insulted by Hikaru Nakamura.
Yes, yes. keep
the first time?
No. Hikaru's been very good. G5, sure, yes. I mean, and in fact, sorry, Hikaru, let me get you with a zinger. It was G5 that Nakamura played against Hikaru in a Catalan that won a pawn on
Wait,
E5.
Nakamura played Hikaru? That sounds like a great game.
No.
I like
Hikaru
that game.
was white.
Who wins?
Against Magnus.
Oh, okay.
Magnus played G5.
Ah, okay.
And G5 won for Magnus
What
a pawn.
tournament was this?
It was a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
Magnus won a pawn on E5, won the game. So yes, from Hikaru's point of view, G5 is common.
Did Magnus win the game?
Yes.
Really? A win against Hikaru?
Yes, I know it's shocking. Sauron has his
day.
Has his day. So yes.
No, but of course it's great to hear from Hikaru Nakamura. He's been tweeting at us a couple of times actually. Remember earlier, this must tie into. Remember he tweeted a couple rounds ago, how he's rooting for Jacobian.
Exactly.
So he's probably like. Doesn't like anyone bashing on Jacobian's chances. Hey, I said Jacobian was going to win. Remember, I said that Lenderman's going to overpress in this game and that Varusha's going to win the game.
Okay.
Now, I did say that at the beginning of the round. I'm not sure I would say that now, but it still could happen.
Right, and the guy who's looking...
Because Lenderman has every reason to try to go for it and avoid that.
And the guy who's looking very prophetic at the moment is, of course, our own colleague, Maurice Ashley.
That is true.
Often overlooked.
What does he win? I mean, he's got sushi, he's got chicken wings.
I'm not sure he's a diamond member. I think he deserves a diamond membership in case of that. But let's.
I don't want to disagree with Hikaru Nakamura. That's a joke, by the way, because Hikaru has some strong opinions. Like, this is America, we all have them. But I think that because of the situation with the clock and the game, I don't think that Jacobian wanted to play this style of chess. G5, I didn't have a chance to comment on G5 myself, but G5 is not that impossible a move to play. We see it in a lot of positions, and G4 as well. Remember one championships, it was like the G-pawn disease?
Right.
Everybody was playing G4 and G5. Which year was that? I think it was maybe 2010
or 11, yeah.
Everybody was G4, G5. Rex Sinkfield, who loves this move and who you coach, Jen, and you tell him not to play that move, he was coming in and laughing every single round.
He does play the Grand Prix, so kind of similar to the closed Sicilian, where you can get away with G4 a lot more often.
Oh, man, he was loving it. Every time somebody played G4 or G5, he'd say, look, Jen, what do you got to say about this? So that move by itself is not the problem. I'm more concerned about mindset. Hikaru, that guy's a fighter. He's a warrior. In his case, moves like G5 don't concern him that much because he's willing to take some chances, loosen his position a little bit, and play that kind of chess, even in critical rounds like this. A Jacobian fighter, yes, but much more solid. I think he plays G5 because he's forced to, because he has to. And I don't think he's comfortable playing a move like that. And you'll see him think even longer. Look at how much time he's spending right now having played that move. He's definitely not super comfortable. He's on edge. I mean, it's a big game, of course. Anyone would be nervous right now, but he's definitely shown that he's more nervous than Lenderman, and the clock time's really displaying that because he hasn't quite caught up yet on the clock, and there's some critical decisions to make in the future, guys.
Without question. Thank you, Maurice, for that. I was just looking at the game between Kamsky and Josh Friedel, by the way. Whenever I have positions like the one currently in Gada's game, for some strange reason, I always look at bishop sacrifices. At the board, I'd hardly want to play such things, but these sacrifices do appear quite often in Grandmaster games. This one is not quite working because the rover trying to set up checkmates can be stopped with the move bishop d6. So the double bishop sacrifice is not on, but Gada's building up a nice kingside attacking position. Probably he's just going to drop back with his bishop for the moment and wanting the opportunity to start going kingside with moves like queen h4, queen h5, knight f3, and so on. But I do remember the g-pawn brigade. Everybody was rushing their g-pawns up the board.
I guess, well, there was an opening actually yesterday where you really wanted Jacobian to play this g4 line against the Dutch as opposed to the bishop d3 that he played instead.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
And actually, I didn't notice it yesterday, but Hikaru also commented that knight b4 was actually a game that had been played previously, and you know we got it.
Gada Kamsky's knight before he was following the diktats of theory.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that was.
Because I just thought it was a bad position for Gada.
Yeah, the tweet was. Oh, just before night before, he mentioned that it was also Gelfand Nakamura. And we did mention that Nakamura won a game against Gelfand, but I guess we didn't go through the
No, we didn't pull up the game from the database.
So before night before, it was Gelfand Nakamura from Zurich 2014.
Wonderful.
So.
By the way, against the move knight a4 by Lenderman, we were looking at two moves. Bishop c6 was our first choice, and queen b6.
Then we were looking at queen b8, and then we just rejected bishop d8 because it just loses a pawn.
Right. So bishop c6, I beg your pardon, was played, and then Lenderman, that is, pardon me, immediately jumped in with the move knight b6, which we kind of discounted because we felt that that trade of knights actually made it a little bit easier for Jacobian to bring this rook that was on a7, looked like it was sleeping over there on a7 and out of the game.
That's what happened indeed. And so this looks, so what is Lenderman's concept here? We'll find out. We are going to take a quick break and we'll be right back to find out more whether Nakamura is right in g5 and Jacobian is sitting pretty, or whether Lenderman will really put the screws in here.
For the U.S. Championship.
Hi, I'm Lindsay, part of the admissions team here at Paul Mitchell School St. Louis. Our campus is located on Maryland Plaza, right here in the gorgeous Central West End.
I chose Paul Mitchell, the school St. Louis, because I visited other schools, and when I was at them, I just felt like the energy level wasn't the same. It wasn't as elevated as it is here. When I came here, it just felt right. Everybody looked great. Everybody had such a great attitude. The facility was really clean and just so much more advanced.
Technology can truly enhance your education. When we brought in Chromebooks and we started using the smart TVs, we really tapped into the 21st century learner.
Being a student at Paul Mitchell is great because the learning leaders, they're there to guide you in the right direction. They give you the opportunity to make decisions on your own.
They accept you for who you are, and they're always welcome and honest and open.
We have encouraged our guests to post Google reviews. So far to date, have over 100 reviews with an average rating of 4.5 stars.
So I like that this isn't just for hair and beauty, but it's also a business college. You can learn hair, you can brush it, you can tease it, you can learn all of that. But to do business, that's something that really takes a whole different level of education.